Have you ever come up with an idea that you were really excited about and then met with your team and then tried to cast vision about it only to find it fizzled out and nobody was really motivated by it? Or have you ever been with an individual and you're trying to cast vision about that person and their career and where they can go, and yet it just didn't really catch on? If you've been in either situation, you know it's not a fun place to be. But what if we could fix that? What if in just a few minutes you could learn how to cast vision like a master caster in such a way that your people would be motivated, inspired, excited about the future, and they would want to join with you in fulfilling that vision that you had for them? Would you be excited about that? I hope so, because it's not that hard to figure it out. It's just a skill set. And once you understand the skill set, you'll be able to pull the tools out and use them when you need to be able to inspire anyone, anytime, any place, anywhere about anything that you want to cast vision about. So if that excites you, I encourage you to listen intently today as we're going to look at 5 different principles that you can use starting today. And as I thought about the subject of casting vision, I thought, like, who is the best vision caster almost everybody knows? And immediately I thought it had to be Martin Luther King in his I Have a Dream speech. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 5 strategies and principles from MLK that you can actually use and apply to improve your ability to cast vision with your team. So that said, let's go to the computer and let's take a look at where we go. Strategy number 1 is you need to utilize more vivid and descriptive words. Utilize more vivid and descriptive words. You know, one of the mistakes that an awful lot of business owners and entrepreneurs make when they try to, quote, cast vision is they use plain language that doesn't inspire anyone. They'll say something like this: hey, this year we're going to grow by 30%, or hey, this year we're going to open up 4 new offices, or over the next 3 years we're going to open up 4 new offices, or something like that. And the language is just kind of boring. There's nothing really exciting about it. It doesn't capture people's hearts. But if you can use more vivid and descriptive words, you might be able to move people better and faster. So let's take a look at how MLK did this in his I Have a Dream speech. So you ready? He said, I have a dream, and by the way, I'm not going to try to match his cadence. This will just be me reading it here. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. Now think about that language there. Think about how vivid and descriptive it is. The red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners. In a time when black and white were not getting along in our country, he has this image of the two of them sitting down together where? At a table of brotherhood. And if you think about a table in your home, what is a table? A table is a place where people who like one another actually sit down together and they have a meal together, and they laugh together, and they play together, and they enjoy each other's company. And so with just a few descriptive and vivid words, he paints an incredible picture that a lot of us don't often paint. Now, we don't have to be Martin Luther-esque to be able to paint great pictures. I mean, most of us, when we're casting vision, aren't going to be trying to cast vision for an entire nation to make a change. We're not going to be on national TV. We just need to use more vivid and descriptive words that would inspire our people in our locations, right? And if you're doing it one-on-one, you just need to inspire that one person. So let's take an example of saying you have one location in your town and you want to expand to 5 locations over the next 3 years. So I'm just going to use where I'm located in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and then expand to 4 other locations in Charleston, in West Ashley, North Charleston, and in Somerville. So this is how you do it. You'd say, hey, I'm excited about the next couple years because we're going to do something pretty exciting. You know how so many people in our area need our help, but they just can't get it because they're way too far away. But what if we could come up with a strategy where someone would be able to get to any one of our branches, any one of our offices within 20 to 25 minutes of wherever they are in Charleston County? Wouldn't it be cool if someone didn't have to drive an hour, hour and a half to get to us and spend an hour in traffic, parked on a bridge where they aren't moving forward but more than an inch or two, every couple minutes? What if we could get rid of all of that, and we could do that and serve more people if we came up with a strategy where we opened up 4 new offices over the course of the next 3 years? Now, is that Martin Luther King-esque? No. But is it better than saying, hey, we're going to open up 4 offices in the next 3 years? Absolutely. That's all you have to do. You just have to be more vivid and more descriptive, because anybody there can relate to having to drive too long. Everyone can relate to being stuck in traffic. Wouldn't it be great if they only had to drive a short distance? Because frankly, I would like driving a short distance for somebody who could help solve my problem. So just use more vivid and descriptive words and you will be golden. So that's strategy number one. No longer just kind of give some numbers. Paint a picture with your words and you'll be much better at doing that. So that's strategy number one. Strategy number two is use we language more frequently. Use we language more frequently. So one of the mistakes that an awful lot of business owners and entrepreneurs make is when they're trying to cast vision, they use the first person singular I. I have a vision of where I want us to go. Like, this is what I want to do, and you're basically forcing everybody to come along with you. First person singular is not good when you're trying to cast vision. First person plural is very good when you're trying to cast vision, because you want to be able to say, this is who we are, this is what we are doing, here's where we're going. We language, great. I language, bad. Very simple principle, but it's an important strategy. And you can see that Martin Luther King clearly understood this. Let's take a look here at the screen again. And he says, but we, and I capitalized the word we just so it's easy to see here, because two-letter words are easy to miss. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. Notice the word pictures here. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us, upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice. Notice how he keeps saying we. He doesn't say, I refuse to believe. He doesn't say, I refuse to believe. He doesn't say, I've come to cash a check. He says, we have. If you want to be a great vision caster, you want to use we. In fact, I went through and just did a quick count. The word we is actually used 35 times in this speech. The word our is used 17 times. The word together is used 7 times. And the word us is used 6 times. Now, in a short speech, that's an awful lot of we, our, together, and us. Why? Because that's the power in communicating and casting vision. You don't want to say I. You want to say we. Now, can you do that? Absolutely. And will it make you a better vision caster? Completely. So when you say, hey, over the next 3 years, we are going to plant 4 new locations, and together we're going to serve thousands of additional customers, and together we're going to attract great talent, and together we're, like, you want to keep using the we language. And when you do that, then people are going to go, okay, I'm part of that. Not this is your thing and you want to do this. This is going to be our thing and this is what we're going to do. So we, not I, and you'll be gold in there. So you've got 2 different strategies. Now it's time to go to strategy number 3. And the third strategy is be honest with your current situation. Be honest with your current situation. When people are casting vision, one of the mistakes that they often make is they think that they need to forget what's going on around. You don't want people to think about this. You want them to think about the future and how it could be better and how it's going to be amazing. But that is not what good vision casters do. Vision casters always want to anchor people into the current problem, because if somebody doesn't understand the problem, they don't really care about the solution. You have to remind people that there's a problem that has to be solved. And what good vision casters do is they anchor it into the problem. They're honest with people about what's going on. They don't brush over it and say it's not a big deal. They say it's a big deal. So let's watch how Martin Luther King does this in his I Have a Dream speech. He says, but 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. Like, there's no part of that where he's somehow glossing over and saying it's not that bad right now. Like, he's trying to say, like, this is bad. Segregation is bad. Discrimination is bad. Living on lonely islands of poverty is bad. Languishing in the corners of American society when other people are prospering. Like, this is bad. And he's anchoring in that. So for you and for me, if we want to cast our vision better, we need to remind people that there's a problem that needs to be solved. In this case, you might say something like this. Right now, we're in one location. And with one location, we only have so many possibilities. So there's some of you who would like to rise up to a new level of management or be able to make more money, but you can't because we're kind of limited in how much we can do here in one location. Some of you know that we would like to attract some better talent, but we can't because we don't have the places to put those people, nor do those people want to go someplace where there isn't a lot of upward mobility. And you know that there's a limited amount of money because we only have a limited number of customers and clients who we can serve. But if we were to open up more opportunity, then we could do that. And you know that there are plenty of people in Charleston County who need our help, but they can't get our help because they can't afford to drive an hour, hour and a half to get to Mount Pleasant. And you know, we can't get some people that we'd like to recruit here because Mount Pleasant's just too expensive to live. We've got to come up with a better strategy, right? You anchor people into the problem, help them feel it, and they're going, hey, I feel that. Like, I would like to move up in management, but I can't. I feel like I've kind of hit a ceiling. You know, I would like to help more people, but we can't help more people. I'd like to bring some people here, but you know, he's right. You know, like Mount Pleasant is expensive. All you're trying to do is connect people to the reality that there's a problem. So be really honest about the problem, anchor people in the problem, because if they don't feel the problem, they really don't care about the solution. You've got to make them feel it. So that is strategy number 3. Now, once you get strategy number 3, then you get to move on to strategy number 4. And strategy number 4 is a pretty obvious one because it's the opposite of 3. And that's it. You got to give them a sense of hope for a better future. You need to give them a sense of hope for a better future. This is the opposite of strategy number 3. It's the ability to say to that group of people, it was bad, but now it's going to be good, right? We anchor first to the problem, and then like all good sales, we then try to stretch the gap to what the future position is going to be. This is the solution. So the bigger the gap is, this is really bad and this is really good, the easier it is going to be to sell. And when you think about it, vision casting really is about selling. It's about selling to your top team, or it's about selling to all of your employees, or it might be selling to an employee one-on-one, but it's just sales, and you sell to the gap. So you need to make sure that you anchor and help them understand and connect to the pain of the problem. And then you want to be able to say, hey, but there's a better future out here. So let's take a look at how MLK did this in his I Have a Dream speech. And we could find plenty of instances. This is just one of them, where he says, I have a dream. And that really is the great sense of hope here, right? I have a dream that one day it's all future. Every day, every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope, and this is the faith that I go back to the South with. MLK was really good about helping people see the future and give them a sense of hope. Like, it doesn't have to be this bad. God's going to come through, and something amazing is going to happen if we just stick together. You can do the exact same thing, because what you want to do is do the opposite of what you did in step 3, right? So in strategy 3, you're telling them how bad it was. You want to be able to say, when we expand to these 4 offices over the next 3 years, everything's going to change. Now, instead of you having to drive from Somerville down to Mount Pleasant, you'll be able to drive right around the corner to your office where you'll be able to work. And we'll be able to employ other people around the area instead of just having to get people to go to Mount Pleasant. And that means that they won't have to move to Mount Pleasant and spend a lot of money. They can live wherever they're going to live. And instead of helping 1,000 people, now we'll be able to help 3,000 or 4,000 people 3 years from now. And that'll also mean that there's going to be opportunity for some of you, that you're going to move into management, and you're going to be managing new locations, and you're going to be managing more people. You're going to be able to make more money. And part of this expansion process, we're going to open up a bonus pool so that all of our employees ought to be able to benefit from the fact that we're expanding. So that's going to mean more money in your pocket. And that means that you might be able to take a new vacation next year. You might be able to spend some more money on your kids, or do something that would just be fun for you. But all of us are going to benefit when we make this commitment together to building these 4 offices in the course of the next 3 years. So, is that Martin Luther King-esque? It doesn't need to be. All it needs to do is inspire your team and your people. But you can learn from MLK that what you need to do is give people a sense of hope that the future is going to be better and brighter when they follow your path. So can you do that? Absolutely. That is number 4. And that brings us to our 5th strategy we pick up from MLK. If you want to be a master caster, this is what you need to do. You need to future pace with an imagine with me call. You want to future pace with an imagine with me call. What this means is that when you're trying to cast vision, you want to future pace with people. You want them to be able to see themselves in that future state. Not just see that there's something good in the future, but actually see themselves in it. And using imagine with me language is going to be very powerful, which I'll explain to you in a moment. But first, let's take a look at how MLK did this in his I Have a Dream speech. He said, with this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. And with this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. And with this faith, notice the repetition. If you want to be good at vision casting, repetition works really well. We will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will one day be free. And this will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And then he goes into that refrain about let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from blank, 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 right? It goes through a whole series of that. Being able to future pace, like, can you imagine what it would be like when we're in this future state where freedom is throughout our entire country, from east to west, north to south, all of us free? Can you imagine that with me? And you can do the exact same strategy with your people when you just want to say, hey, imagine with me for a moment what it's going to be like 3 years from now. 3 years from now, instead of 20 employees, we're going to have 100 employees. And we're all going to be on a cruise ship in Charleston Harbor with our spouses. So we got 200 of us. Imagine what it'll be like when we have 200 of us sitting in this cruise, telling stories about the incredible journey we've taken over the course of the last 3 years. And we get to hear stories from all kinds of people that we've been able to help over the last 3 years. Thinking about all the people around here who are going to be in upper management that aren't currently able to do that, but will be 3 years from now. Imagine what it's going to be like with me, what's going to happen when we start investing more money in brand building and marketing, so that when we have these 5 offices all over Charleston County, everyone's going to know who we are. So when you're at a cocktail party, or when you're meeting somebody in your neighborhood for the first time and they say, so what do you do? And you say, well, I work with, insert your name of your company, XYZ company. They're going to go, oh, I've heard of you. I've seen your commercials. I've seen your marketing. I've seen your stuff. Or, hey, I use your company, or something like that. Versus now when you say, I work with so-and-so company, and they go, oh, what do you guys do? Like, it won't happen anymore, because we'll have 5 offices. We're helping thousands of people. We'll be doing all kinds of brand building things, because now we're not in one location, but we're in 5 locations. Can you imagine what it's going to be like? Can you imagine the pride you're going to have when you're walking around town and you've got a shirt with our company logo on it, and people go, oh, I know you guys. You guys are great. Can you imagine what it'll be like when? And then you just riff off of that idea and play with it. And all of a sudden your people are going to go, like, I'm signed up. I want to be a part of that, right? Because you future paced for them what it's going to be like, and they can see themselves in the future. That's your job. That's what MLK did. That's what you can do. And the more that you do that, the better you're going to be as a master caster. So can you do all 5 of these strategies? Absolutely. And when you will, you'll become a great vision caster, and you'll be able to inspire your team anytime, any place, anywhere. So let me just do a quick roundup of these, because you might want to take a screenshot and see these 5 strategies you can use. Number 1, utilize more vivid and descriptive words. Number 2, utilize we language more frequently. Thirdly, be honest about your current situation. Remember to anchor them in the problem so they understand it. 4, give them a sense of hope about the future. Expand the gap, because you're selling to that group of people. And number 5, future pace with an imagine with me call. Help them to put themselves into the future, to see that, so they want to be a part of that. And if you were paying attention as going through, I actually gave you a bonus 6th one, and that was to speak in their self-interest. Notice how I didn't talk about me as an owner or you as an owner. We talked about them and what they would get out of it, because the more that you can connect to what people are self-interested in, the more powerful your motivation is going to be. So take a quick screenshot of that, and while you're doing that, I want to encourage you to listen to another video that we did, or listen to a podcast we did on how can you build a self-operating business. So make sure you watch that, and if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And this week, I hope that you're going to cast vision. Just start playing with these 5 different strategies, because the better you get at them, and you'll get better over time, the better you will be able to motivate and inspire your people. And you'll be able to cast vision anytime, any place, anywhere, with anyone about anything. So I hope you enjoyed today's video or podcast. Until our next time, to your accelerated success, Bruce out.